You might be asking yourself, why is all of this censorship suddenly just burbling up out of nowhere? Well, the Nier creator, Yoko Taro, is also pretty concerned about this. He says if they have control of the clearinghouse, they can even use it to control speech in other countries. I don't know about you, but that sounds kind of risky. Now, regardless of how you feel about Alex Jones, I'll remind you that he was also debanked. He was removed from every social platform as well, but moreover, processors refused to process his payments. And so he is effectively removed from being able to survive in the economy, you know? And again, regardless of how you feel about him, good or bad, if that was appropriate in your opinion or not, that is the power of the financial institution now to do that to an individual. Now we find out that they're exercising this on places like Manga Library Z. That was just recently taken down. In fact, Yoko Taro, the article here about Yoko Taro mentions that in a little bit here. And so this is where we find ourselves, guys, is at this point, we have a censorship fetish, I guess would be a way to put it, within the halls of the financial institutions. Now, they're particularly picking on anime because, little did you know, anime promotes mostly heterosexual relationships. Wouldn't that be strange? Isn't that strange, huh? I know. You know about boy love, you know about Yuri, blah, blah, blah. Sure. But the majority of Japanese properties, manga, anime, and video games that have a romantic lean to them promote a male female dynamic. And I believe that's why they're doing this, is that the adult content even dives into how men and women get along with one another. And that's just my opinion about why they're doing it, is because they can't have that. I'll remind you, these financial institutions are controlled by BlackRock, that has swore to change people's opinions and fully believes that the planet is overpopulated. So here's Grummz, and he had a take on this, and he says there are two chokeholds over manga and games right now. Two huge censorship vehicles that push woke ideology, and Yoko Taro is calling them out today. The most obvious is payment providers who have been stamping out anime artists and controlling creative freedom in Japan. The second is ESRB and PGEI, Peggy. Voluntary rating systems that have long outlived their usefulness and even ideologically captured to push wokeness and censor games. ESRB is the next big battle in gaming. You ready to win this one too, Chuds? And he's talking to the Chuds here. But we'll get into what Yoko Taro has to say. Now, if you don't know Yoko Taro, he's behind the Nier series. It's Nier and Nier Automata, as well as, I think, Drakengard? Not sure how to pronounce it. His style is more, I would say he wants to explore more of the motivations for conflict between humans. Moreover, he's kind of interested in sort of highlighting that than correcting it, I guess. More of the, I'm not going to teach you how to be nice to each other. I just want you to notice that you're not being nice to each other. That kind of thing. And nice isn't like we're all going to sit around and have a coloring book thon with some Paddington Bear on TV and, some crayons and whatnot. Have a great time at a sleepover. Not the case. Not the case. Because this guy, this is how he walks around when he has to be on camera. Okay? He wears this big moon-faced scary guy icon head thing, and I'm not familiar with what he calls it or what the character he's portraying is. I'm very sorry, but that is how you see him when he goes out in public most of the time. I think all of the time. You recall Daft Punk did this. They had this style of not appearing even in like interviews without the masks on, and they told the story that they were burned in a recording booth incident, but that's up in the air as to whether or not they were actually physically harmed over that, or if it was moreover an excuse to wear the masks all the time because that improved their brand. And again, this is very iconic. You definitely know when Yoko Taro is part of the conversation, that's for sure. And this is what he had to say, though. So we'll just skip right down here, and it says, credit card payment companies are refusing to accept payments for legal adult content. Unlawful regulations have been implemented in publishing and other areas before, but I feel that the level of danger is on a different level when payment companies, which are involved in the entire distribution infrastructure, are able to make such decisions at their own discretion. If they control payment companies, they could even use it to censor speech in other countries. Now, he goes on and he says more. He says this: it's not just a matter of adult content regulations or freedom of expression. It feels like it's a security hole for for democracy as a whole. So if they can do this to adult content, how long before they roll it back and start doing it to content they don't like Alex Jones? Again, whether you come down on him, right? If he's right or wrong or whatever, it doesn't matter. The financial institutions should not have the power to do that. I don't want adult content becoming a huge market. It disturbs me that there's a site online now that we can't name on YouTube, and it's generating millions of dollars of revenue for the abuse of the human body. I don't like it. I don't think that that's healthy for society. I don't like the idea that teenagers are hoping to grow up into that will be their business, that they will make millions of dollars off of abusing their bodies. I don't think that that's good to promote. But on the other end, I don't think the government or any institution should be in charge of wholesale banning that. We need to start doing more to incentivize people to do less abuse to their bodies and more productive work with those bodies, right? We've got asteroids we've got to mine, okay? We got to get out there. There's gold the size of Texas that's waiting for us out there, okay? We can't be busy down here worrying about whether or not our nudie magazines are going to get zapped out of existence because some bean counter somewhere has a hair across his ass. Okay, we can't do that. We can't have like the economy itself, the global economy. Consider that these are most likely censors in the West that have decided that we're going to get rid of this place because we feel like it offers too much. Pornography there is in place with children's entertainment, and we find this to be awful. These two things are mixed together so much. Now, in Japan, they have different decency laws, okay? And so what happened is that we'll scroll down here so you know what I'm talking about. This is J-Comi. This is what's J-Comi. It was a website that was dedicated to, here it is, Ken Akamatsu. He started this website to archive manga that was not being, excuse me, I had a frog in my throat, that was not being reprinted. So this stuff would go out of print. Sometimes these manga magazines would just run a story in order to fill part of the magazine, and you'd never see it again. Sometimes that had been sitting in their office for months, years, and it would just get thrown in and as filler, and you'd never see it again. If you didn't grab that magazine and cherish it for the rest of your life, you never got to see that story, character, art style ever again. And so this website has now been taken down for the processor that allows donations and purchases of merchandise, that sort of thing, in order to keep the site going, has decided to cease any type of financial agreement between users and the website. So there's no way to donate to them currently, right? And again, that kills it because there's no way to keep something running for free. It's not a government library, right? And it probably shouldn't be because, once again, it falls under those laws. But what used to happen in these old manga, right? Well, it's still happening now. But a lot of these a lot of the stuff on Manga Library Z was about just regular Shonen Jump stuff that maybe didn't rise that high or maybe just didn't last that long or something. But in other manga magazines, they weren't so concerned with presenting a children's magazine. It moreover was just, we've got manga here and we're trying to get you to buy it. So here we go. We're going to throw in some pictures of bikini girls. All right. And so in these magazine scans, you're going along, reading the adventures of this character, having a good time, and then here is a bunch of bikini women, real life pictures of bikini women in the middle of it doing, bikini women things. They're not naked, they're not doing porn, they're perfectly as clothed as one would be at the beach, but they are, deliberately being photographed in compromising positions, so it would qualify as pornography as far as sexual intention goes, okay? And there probably was some full-on nudity in some of those scans too, because again, these weren't limited to children's magazines. Manga's not just for kids, okay? It crosses the whole range. There's whole, not even a genre to it. It's really like a sector. It's really like divided off. You've got children's entertainment, young adults entertainment, and full-on adult entertainment. And even then, that full-on adult entertainment isn't boobies all the time. Sometimes it's just really gratuitous violence, like Berserk. You know, it's just piling on the violence, you know, and so it can't qualify for young adult or children's media. And so that's the big kind of shift here that we're dealing with, whereas outsiders see this and we go, well, you know, they got took down because they got a whole bunch of cheese pizza on that website, and that's why they got taken down, because those people over there, they engage in that kind of stuff. And that's not the case. Everyone in those magazines, those young women in those bikini outfits, are all over 18. They're all perfectly legal by international standards even. And so the situation is that, in fact, some of them probably were idols that went on to be Super Sentai villainesses. I bet you didn't know that quite a few of these bikini idols in Japan went on to be villains in the children's television show Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. So you'd just be flipping through one of those manga magazines that's got some, you know, bikini women in them, and all of a sudden there's Melee from Geki Ranger. And you're like, whoa, I didn't know that was all going on underneath all that costume, you know? And it's pretty surprising sometimes. But again, you'd find that in there. There'd be a little insert about Melee, and this is the actress that portrays her who used to be a bikini model. It's one of those things, and this is what happened. The censor decided to crash all of that because, you know, they didn't want the crisscross. They didn't want to have to explain why they were supporting a space where obvious clothed, mostly, I assume, mostly clothed pornography is intermingled with what is perceived to be children's media, okay? No questions were asked, they just, done. The repeal was done, just like that. There was no, the appeal rather, not the repeal. The appeal was just bang, just like that. It was over with. There was no, they didn't want to hear it out, okay? And because not enough people traffic in Bitcash, right? Bitcoin, Bitcash, because not enough people traffic in that, there's no way to keep the website running on that. So presently, they're trying to find a new way to bring it back up again because Manga Library Z has been going since the early 2000s. It's a massively important website for people who are manga nuts, who like, you know, they're manga wackos, you know? They want to just read it all the time. It's good stuff, you know? Some of it's good, some of it's just fun to be like, whoa, I didn't expect that to happen. You remember Bobo, right? Well, I'm sure there were quite a few of manga on Manga Library Z that were like that. That kind of absurdist humor is quite popular in Japan, still is today. And that's, you know, that's what you're dealing with, is that these censors want to kill this stuff, taking any opportunity they can, because as I said at the top of the video, the Japanese endorse a very heterosexual style of romantic storytelling. And if they go into adult media, you bet your ass there's going to be sex scenes in there. You bet your ass there's going to be flirting in there. You bet your ass there'll be foreplay in there. But guess what? This is stuff that the West now screams against. We're more than happy to show you all kinds of dirty things that are going on with the Rainbow League, but in no way are we going to tell you that heterosexual relationships are normal. We're going to demonize those. And what do you know? A website that has a massive archive of even the early parts of Japanese manga, right? Because this wasn't limited to stuff that was just going on in the early 2000s. This is stuff stretching back to the beginning. Stuff in the time when Akira Toriyama was just a guy trying to submit his stuff getting started, you know? And that stuff is in there. Toriyama was a fan of these dirty magazines as well. He often drew himself as a little robot guy smoking cigarettes, eating cookies, and reading a dirty magazine. Again, it's a different culture, and here we are over here in the West pretending that we know better than everybody else. And we don't. We're human beings. We should be patrolling our own culture, right? Instead of trying to lecture to another. It's almost like the people that do this stuff were screaming this at us for over a decade. I remember growing up being told that the United States was imperialistic for trying to tell people in the Middle East to not blow up themselves. You remember that? Do you remember the martyr debate when we were growing up in school? How the lefties were like, you can't tell them how to practice their faith. And now they're like, you Japanese can't have your porno in your comics. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? I don't know about you guys, but I'll see you in the next video. And until then, good luck out there.